lot of rat spots to play. I'll get door charge. You got a clacker?
Yeah, I got clacker.
Let's do this, boys.
Let's go.
Nice. I'm getting us into manager.
My vent is shot open.
Nose looks clear.
Flashing lens. One's lens. Dead.
One in tellers.
I'm backing up. Okay, pushing to lobby.
Right, hit the button now.
Tellers is dead. Heading through security.
I'm dead. Pushing bomb now? I'll go dry.
Security dead.
3, 2, 1, go. I'm dead, I'm up.
Who's dead? I think they're all dead. I'm defusing.
Well played, boys.
Nice.
Nice, well done.
Was
Nice clutch.
way too close.
Alright, here we go.
Alright, what's the plan?
Are we going all out?
Yeah.
So they could do this. I don't think that they'll try to open storefront.
I feel like storefront's a big enough play. Door charge freezer, and then wall charge storefront so you can look at the front.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's rocking what?
I'm taking extra flash just to try to see if we can finish it right here.
Alright, I'm out of here.
Well, they're going now. They're ready.
Here I'm heading north.
Alright.
Who's got clacker?
Do we have arcade, or do they have it?
We still have arcade.
3, 2, 1.
Tell them going in.
Freezer and storefront.
Flip it, Howard.
Send it, brother.
Watch arcade. Watch arcade then. They can't come the other way. They can't come
Nice.
through.
GG.
Get it?
Good execution.
Got it.
Green, we just censor office and dock, right?
Yo, what? It like swings open? Dude, this is slick.
I'm dropping.
Going. I'm pushing.
Nice.
Alright, what are we doing, boys? That north red door looks really good. It gives us really quick access to the vaults. I like the vents, though. The vents are probably better for the button.
We could do a split.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I can take this north vent position and just try and clear loans. Who's going with you?
I can go with him.
Alright, perfect. So me, Revenant, and Roach will be on red door duty.
Charge is on.
I'm prepping flash.
Let's double flash the accounting area. There's a lot of rat spots to play. I'll get door charge. You got clacker?
Yeah, I got clacker.
Let's do this, boys.
Let's go.
Nice. I'm getting us into manager.
My vent is shot open.
Nose looks clear.
Flashing lens. One's lens. Dead.
One in tellers.
I'm backing up. Okay, pushing to lobby.
Right, hit the button now.
Tellers is dead. Heading through security.
I'm dead. Pushing bomb now? I'll go dry.
Security dead.
3, 2, 1, go. I'm dead, I'm up.
Who's dead? I think they're all dead. I'm defusing.
Well played, boys.
Nice.
Nice, well done.
Was
Nice clutch.
way too close.
Hello, everyone. I'm TH Pine, Community Manager of Due Process. I'm here with Alexander Baard, our Creative Director. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm well. How about you?
I'm doing great. Making sure the stream is going well, but it seems like we're good to go. People are joining the Discord as well. So,
Jeez, a lot of people.
yep, a lot of people. Cool. All right. Let me double check that we're actually live on Twitch and YouTube, but I think it's going fine. Looks good. Chat is working. There we go. All right. All right. I hope you all had a wonderful holidays, and we are ready to start, or we're ready for a new year of due process. And well, we had a bunch of updates since the last Q&A, and some time has passed, and so I thought it would be a good idea to keep you guys up to date and let you ask your questions as the last few times. And so we're here. So I think we're just gonna get right into it. You can ask your questions either in the Twitch chat, in the YouTube chat, in the Discord channel. I made a Discord channel. It's called Baard, Questions for Baard. Or you can raise like request to speak and ask a question in voice. If you request to speak, please make sure your mic is working and stuff, so we don't have to spend too much time. We're a little bit limited on time. We're gonna go for, well, 85 minutes now, and then Baard will have to leave. So let's get right into it. If I find the channel. There we go. Oh no, I switched the tab. Now it's somewhere else. Give me a sec. Okay, let's just start with something from Discord. So Coop is asking, how high on the priority list are improving the quality of life and general mechanics of the game in changes that have been asked multiple times in the feedback channels? And for examples, he mentions hit marker sizes, hit sounds playing incorrectly, server tick rate, networking, making movement and gameplay feel more natural and satisfying to use, hit reg fixes, and Resi chimes in with damage feedback, because apparently new players are still struggling to realize they're getting hit by Molotovs. So...
Fuck, dude, I'm still struggling to understand I'm getting hit by Molotovs. So, yeah, it's work in product or work in progress. Just the product of resource constraints. Most of our engineers are working on the performance issues right now.
Yeah, I figured that would be the answer. I should do this.
But yeah, we're aware of all of these things. It's just we don't have the manpower to address all of them.
So I guess the answer is these things are not, like, they're important, but they're not top priority on the top on the priority list right now.
It's just the first priority was handling the performance issues, and then
Okay.
we'll move on to all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that answers a bunch of other questions I've seen about priorities. So engineerings are working on performance, correct?
It's just you can't have these people work on multiple things at a time.
Yeah.
It's totally inefficient to thrash between multiple things, right? So we just batch typically the biggest task first, and then move to smaller stuff, and that's done. So yeah, we will be. I mean, I think what we need is a better way to have the community voice its prioritization of said issues, because a bunch of feedback in Discord, as good as it is, it's not a great indicator of consensus, not on outcome, but something must be done about this over this. So that would aid us if we could figure out a way to understand, like, above all else, say the community wants the tub patched, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, just makes it easy for me to, like, wrangle said parties and say, see, they want it, do the thing. So, okay.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we can try to figure something out. Have some ideas on that. All right, let's get a question in voice. Redman, invite to speak. Hello.
Hello.
Your life.
Hi.
Hello?
Do you just want me to get straight to the question?
Please do.
Alright. I was going to ask, back in the setup phase, there's one box in Defenders, side that's empty instead of having utility like the other two boxes. Same way with defenders or attackers that has like 2 walls empty that's not filled with anything. Are you guys planning to add anything like that, or add any more utility weapons and a bunch of other stuff?
Absolutely, but the boxes are just there because they're identical prefabs to the other things. So, I mean, I'm sure you're aware the box on the left-hand side for the enforcers is meant for captured goods, right? But yeah, it's just placeholder art, but the utilities thing, I think that's how we increase the depth of the game, is to add more utilities to the game that increase the like tactical options available to each team.
Is there anything that what have you guys been developing on that we could get some insight into, if your guys are comfortable sharing with anything you guys been developing with, or is that going to be staying secret until the big launch day for it?
We typically have a policy of announcing a feature right before it comes out. Just makes things smoother. But as I said, right, like the priority since the Battle Pass shipped has been to address the sore spots of that and then move on to performance. And once performance is in a good spot, we'll be moving on to a lot more of the kind of topical issues that people are talking about. But I think we can all agree that the game would benefit from running at a higher frame rate, and it is,
I would agree,
one of our biggest sectors of Steam refunds and such is because of performance. So it's just the issue that helps us gain more concurrency and makes the game smoother for everyone. And then after that, I, like everyone else, want to see all the cool shit come in. I wish you had done a better job of splitting between these sort of the big stuff like performance and the more day-to-day stuff. Like I liked when we did the gunplay 3.0 and we got the new reloads in, but that also came with a couple of I wouldn't call them new guns, right? But at least it added some flavor to the game, And yeah, we'd like to do more of that in the future.
That's good to hear.
Cool.
That's all for me.
Awesome. Thanks.
So let's expand on that and the question before, because there's like one of the main questions that I've seen from multiple people is basically, what are you guys working on right now? And I guess we covered engineers already. So engineers focusing on cleaning up the battle pass and going for the performance patch. But what's the level team doing? What's the art team doing? What's going on?
1 sec.
Sure. So I'm sure Bud will be right back. There we go.
Yeah, I am back. Sorry for the dead air. God damn it. 1 sec. I'm struggling with a thing. Okay. All right. I think it's working. We're good.
Good thing.
Basically, was the question, what are we working on again?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, what are the different teams working on? Like, what's being worked on right now? What's the top priority for every department?
We are working on a major update to the C-Store, along with, I believe Grant is still working on Kill House stuff. That's more housekeeping because Kill House was in a really bad state where it was requiring a lot of designer intervention to actually generate it. And that would lead us to see less room variety than I'd like to see. We were just getting a lot of gens that were just kind of like the same 4 rooms over and over again, because it was just an artifact of, if you need a human to turn on a room, then you're not going to see the room unless they turn it on. So it was just more like a restoration of like, I really meant it when I said, this procedural generation needs to be procedural. It can't just be like, we have to live with the rooms that we make and improve them instead of just turning them off. So, yeah, so that's what he's up to. I'm very excited about that because I think that's the kind of deep stuff that makes the game far richer, even though it's quite subtle. However, I would say that Sandwich's C-store is something that's like really fucking cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the community thinks of that. So
sounds good.
Cool.
What do the others do?
You mean the engineers?
Well,
I mean,
engineers,
like, so
okay.
Right.
So we also have like game design and art team, or are these things still like secret?
Game design is working on undisclosed improvements. But yeah, the engineers. I mean, like the art, they are working. I guess I should mention the Argus update would make a lot of sense to say something about.
Okay.
That is a refactor of their look to make them more enduring and avert a disaster where we have to redo a bunch of content that we've already released. So that's the reason why the Argus stuff, they haven't really gotten many customizations yet, and they're kind of like totally absent from the past. Is we just want to do a great job with them and show up with like a lot of cool variety and make people happy. So
all right, cool. Well, let's get the next question from Voice and Turbojet. Invite to speak. Let's see if they join. Hopefully. Well, if not, we get Red Commissar in the line. Okay. Let's not waste time. Please be ready when you request to speak. Invite sent to Red Commissar. Oh, I guess he declined it maybe. There we go, there's Red Commissar. Hello.
Hello. Let me find the question I sent.
Hey, buddy.
Chat. How are you doing, Baard?
I'm okay. How about you?
Pretty good.
I have a question for you, Red Commissar. Are you happy about the new lore channel?
I am. I am very happy.
Awesome.
I now have to find time to write again.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
It's been fun to see little discussions in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Told you I wouldn't be the only one to post in there.
True. Turned out true, for sure.
Yeah. So, my question really is, you know, the maps are the core of this game. They are the reason people have to play. They are kind of the biggest draw for most players, as far as I can tell. The procedurally generated maps really does change the first-person shooter formula. But it feels like they're just not in a good state. There's QA stuff, like only having one red door or having props that will block off rotates, or not necessarily rotates, but in doorways or stairs that make movement a little bit more of a challenge than it should be. And then also on the design level, it feels like they're getting bigger and more open, and, you know, the rooms are kind of bland. And that's not to say the bland rooms are bad, as in the you know, like office itself as a room doesn't need to change. It just needs to be built to not just feel like a copy paste and actually provide some interesting challenge, I guess. Because the main issue I feel that I have with most of the maps right now is that there does not feel like there's a reason to plan beyond what door am I going to, what's the fastest route to bomb, maybe I'll hit power if it's on the way. And that's all the maps really require of you right now. It'd be nice to see some rooms that really challenge the players and force them to have to think about going in. And while I would like to see things like, back when Dome first came out, Castle, you couldn't kick down the door, so the button was a really big piece of planning on that map, and power was a big piece of planning, and I like that interaction, and personally I'd like to see it come back. I don't think it will, based on what I've heard, but stuff like that, where you really have to think about how you're pathing through the map and what you're doing and making choices, makes planning more interesting. And then even then, stuff like secondary objectives, like we saw with Pillbox and Killhouse, before Pill got moved to being put on the outside of the map instead of the inside, whereas this really powerful room that you'd almost choose to take the longer route to try and secure Pillbox, instead of just rushing straight to bomb because Pillbox was so powerful. More stuff like that would be really nice, and even just creating more room styles that made you think more about going into each room rather than we're just going to throw 3 flashbangs in and clear the room and then win.
I agree with pretty much all of what you said. I just asked, what's the question?
Is anything being done on that front?
Yes.
Is there anything you can share?
Well, I guess I wrote down the points I disagree with, because the rest I do agree with. I guess there's only one point I disagree with, which is quite minor. You said that blandness is okay. I think blandness is totally unacceptable. Obviously, you do need normal rooms, right? But not everything can be like crazy. But yeah, if it's bland, I think that's a total failure of the level designer's mission. That said, right, like, you know, it's always going to happen. It's just, you know, try to make it not happen. So the planning failure is also a total failure in the mandate for the level designers. So I'll make sure to bring that up with them at 1 o'clock today. And I guess I would say, touching on that kind of the problem is the tension is very veteran players like you will be able to parse a map and end up with good outcomes and appreciate the value of all of those dilemmas you described, like whether or not to push pillbox instead of rushing bomb, or pathing through different parts of Kill Dome based on where the button for the castle is, right? The tension that we see, though, is that new players just get totally overwhelmed. And so we need there is, how do I put this? The goal of all game design is to achieve a favorable depth to complexity ratio. And in order to get depth, you need some complexity. Case in point being, like, there's no depth to Candyland. You just roll the dice and you end up winning based on random outcome, right? Where, like, a slot machine is probably a better example of pretty close to zero complexity, right? And no depth at all. But you basically need complexity to buy depth. And I think what happens is a lot of our levels waste complexity on things that aren't depth related. And it's much deeper than, like, oh, this room doesn't need so many props or whatever. It's just like the problem is getting to the very core of what a room is about and making it only about that thing, and then ruthlessly deleting things that don't aid in that goal, or in that purpose, I should say. And yeah, so where this all hails from is I need to engage with the level designers to help crystallize their philosophy on exactly what it is they're doing here. That's part of it, right? Is a mindset. The other part, though, is repetitive stress injury, which is just we are working on introducing more personnel to the level design process from the community so that we can scale our efforts such that our existing level designers aren't editing maps anymore. That will help with the creative lapses, I would call them, that we're seeing. And also all the QA bullshit of just, like, you know, this map is impossible, or it just has a door blocked by some object that wasn't deleted. And then finally is the tools problem, which is, again, that's just a resource constraint thing, which I guess I should add I'm working on solving with On. So we'll get back to you on what that means soon. But yeah, like, basically what you're seeing is symptoms of quite a deep problem, Red. And I think it's tractable. I mean, it's very easily solvable with at least on 2 of the prongs. So, yeah, like, as time goes on, I think the levels will, if you think of them as like cartoons, right? We're probably in like season 2 or 3 where the art style hasn't gotten, I'm not talking about the art itself for the levels, I'm talking about like the quality of choice dichotomy and quality of the levels overall is probably in season 2 or 3, but you know, with a few changes we can get up to season 4 or 5 in that like kind of refined, polished phase that you see typically in cartoons from like the 2000s to the 2010s.
Hopefully not the ones where season 4 and 5 were outsourced to Korea or something.
Well, as Koreans, they do good work, you know. But yeah, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about like it's just kind of teething issues. All of these levels are living objects, right? More so than a Counter-Strike map, right? Which it is a living object, but its growth rate is glacial, right? Bars are growing all the time. It's like a petri dish of shit going on, and so yeah, we're working on solving the 3 prongs of that approach that will produce higher quality, more consistent levels with better choice dichotomy and better design, but also probably more variety. I'm sorry, like greater volume of levels as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. There's going to be all sorts of big changes this year, so we're acutely aware of all these problems. I think what it is basically what happened was by doing this game, we didn't realize that we're actually making something much bigger than we thought. In terms of the goals of this project are, I think, a bit more lofty than other FPS games, and that creates all sorts of quality problems in this like early phase, if that makes sense. So yeah.
And slightly related, and a bit more subjective to my personal feelings on maps, it feels like a lot of the maps have kind of been getting larger and maybe even a little more open, and then you have things, 3 of the maps, Dome, Bank, and Factory, are all very by design large and open. Are we going to see some of the C-Store and Kill House maybe become a bit more CQC oriented, or future tile sets that are more CQC oriented? That's really the draw for me for the game, and I feel like for a lot of people that is the draw of the game.
I just don't understand why CQC means point blank. Can you clarify how it doesn't mean that?
I wouldn't say it means that. I'd say I will say most of the recent kill houses that I've played have been better than what I'm remembering as being the really large open C-stores and kill houses. But it definitely feels like things like Factory, where there's been, 40 by 40 tile open spaces, are just too large for the game in what I've played. And it feels like it should be closer to, 16 by 16 being the largest play area. Oh, did I scare him away?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Bard
Baard disappeared. He exploded. Oh no, there you go. I need to invite him to speak again. I think he could invite himself, but there we go.
There we go. Sorry, my client just crashed very abruptly.
All right.
Which seemed like a stone cold thing to do. Anyway, so what did I hear last? I heard 40 by 40 rooms is where you were.
Yeah, I was saying stuff like 40 by 40 rooms are way too big, especially without large sightline blocking cover.
Yeah.
Stuff that's much smaller, not necessarily point blank, but not to the point where using a sniper would be detrimental.
100% understand. Let me ask you a question. It's very oblique to what you're talking about, but it is relevant. What did you think of the breezeway change?
I was a big fan of the breezeway change. It's still not my favorite room to see on maps, but I think from a gameplay perspective, having another very strong wall charge spot other than storefront is really good for the game. I think making that a lot more safe for defenders, even if it's still a big risk to rotate through, was a good change. And I think making it so you weren't getting maps with 2 green doors was a very good change.
Yeah. Let me summon something I wrote. One sec. Here's what I wrote. The Breezeway was disliked by the community because it offered too many free entries for the attacking team. What made Breezeway unique was that it constituted a risky rotate for defenders and offered enforcers the opportunity to shortcut the structure by walking into double envelopment in extreme risk. The problem was that the double envelopment wasn't meaningful because enforcers could easily ingress from 4 sides of the breezeway to overwhelm defenders with flashbang and smoke. The solution was to preserve the solution to preserve these 2 desirable aspects. That is to say, the risky rotate and the invitation for double envelopment. It was simple. You chain link in the breezeway tile perimeter. The risky rotate is still preserved and free, as attackers can still shoot through the fence, and the double envelopment plan is still available to enforcers if they choose to expend a wall charge. So why I bring that up is that was the result of like a little powwow I had with the level designers. We ended up solving the problem. There was also stuff about, like, say, making the breezeway and courtyards relevant, because like, if you have a satellite structure, then you need to have a soft objective there, and the Kill House Day just doesn't really have one. There's no breaker, so you're fucked. So we like, Windows was a good solution to do that. Sometimes they'll just put the bomb site overlooked by the breezeway, I guess, or maybe you can like stash a guy back there. I think is sort of like the worst case scenario, right? Anyway, I just want to point out, right, like that's the process, right? What you need to do is identify the core of why does this room exist? Why have it at all? And you absolutely need to have rooms like Breezeway, because otherwise it's just going to be a bunch of kitchens and clubs, right? Where there's, like, I would say club at least has the elevation constraint, but kitchen is pretty much just like brick house. It just has low walls, right? Like, and obviously there are play differences that will arise from that, but it's not super duper meaningful, you know. Whereas a room like Breezeway, as reviled as it was earlier on, at least had the fact that it had an emotional response was a good sign. We just need to do a better job of the revision process to arrive at better equilibriums, because of course, like, no one wants to play a map where the attackers just get 3 free entries and it's just a shit show of like, I don't know where they're gonna come, just, you know, do whatever. But yeah, if you take that approach to, say, like, your 40 by 40 room, it's sort of like, I guess my thought experiment for that is, in itself, a 40 by 40 room isn't so bad, because if the 40 by 40 room had 1 door and a shipping crate in the very center of the room, you're gonna know exactly how that fight unfolds, right? I think that the problem is when the 40 by 40 room is naturally, you know, due to its size, has the opportunity to create a shit ton of possible holds for the defenders, to the point where it just becomes like totally unplannable, right? It becomes go through the door and hope your long range shooting is better than them. And I like, one of the worst maps that I played, or not, the map itself I didn't mind. It was like just the worst example of this was, it was like a 2nd story entry where you would walk onto, like, you would walk through one of those double doors into a high ground position, but that thing had, like, I counted, I think, something like 12 possible holds, all of which were like decent fighting positions, including 2 that were like right next to you in like the bottom corner of your screen on the 1st floor. And yeah, that's the problem with long range rooms, I think. But I don't think that long range in itself is so bad, right? It just becomes like a tactical challenge, right? Like a great example of this is if you just have a really long hallway and then there's a sniper at the end, then how do you solve the problem? You can smoke, you could bait flash, you could perhaps send a shield one day. There are all sorts of solutions to the problem, and that's what level designers are supposed to do. They're supposed to give you clear problems, and the worst case scenario is when you've got a really punishing problem that is super nebulous in the nature of what the problem is. So that's why big rooms are bad. But I would say that like Halo, the goal is to have 3 ranges to the game, but it doesn't mean that range 3 needs to be needlessly large. It just needs to be meaningful. It needs to be large enough that long-range weapons have a space where they're effective, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, I guess if you were to measure that would be something like how far can an enforcer flash and then rush you effectively if you had, say, an Ingmar, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I'll get back to you on what the solution will be to the big rooms, but I believe Grant's plans after the kill house were to address factory, so that will certainly be part of the remedy.
All right.
Cool. I would suggest we move on to another person.
Yes.
Thanks, Commissar.
That was my last one for now.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. A somewhat related question from Revenant. Why are sniper rifles the most high-impact weapons in due process? They're limited by the game's economy, and most people don't want to use them in a tactical shooter. Was strong long-range weaponry always intended to be a key part of the gameplay loop?
Yes. They're strong because they have one-shot headshot.
True.
So,
yeah.
That's the thing. I think players don't want to take them because of, they also don't want to take the auto shotgun. And why they don't want to take the item is they feel pressure for taking a totally exclusive, there's only one of these things.
Highly valuable piece of equipment.
Which perhaps that indicates that the very concept of a power weapon is flawed in our game.
Interesting.
The point of the power weapons, that is the snipers on both teams, the automatic shotgun, and the cart, were to create fulcrums to your plan. So it's like your entire plan would revolve, or not perhaps your entire plan, but it would meaningfully incorporate a power weapon as a force multiplier. And so if you could get the enemy into the right position, then the power weapon would reward with that behavior. So it's like if you could somehow block the enemy and force them through going through the bathroom, then an auto shotgun could be there to meet them, right? I don't know. I just think that it's this weird psychology thing where it's basically some people think they're hot shit and they're like, give me that gun. And most people are like, oh no, it's scary. I want to fail the team. So that in itself is an interesting and unexpected problem. We always thought that the power weapons would go immediately. People just run over to them, ignore the plan, and just give me them up. But apparently I'm the only guy that does that. So it's kind of weird. You can ask the devs. I always take them up and just try to do the cheeky angle through the window to get a pick. Because I'm basically just trying to punish them for not playing FPS games that much. So,
that makes sense. Revenant wants to point out that the issue with the mob is not the one-shot headshot, but the body shot damage, which is 135.
I disavow that shit. I never believed in the body shot thing. Go message Vince and complain to him. I think it's awful to just give people I'll just fuck you up to the point where you're totally ineffective. You are now the utility water boy, right? That's a stupid fucking button to have in our game.
Okay.
So that's my opinion.
All right.
You guys can debate that, I guess.
I see a good Baard take JPEG in chat, so seems like chat is agreeing, at least some of them.
It's bad. It's a risk versus reward button, right? It's not a just free delete this guy 90% button. So okay, let's move on. I won't rag on the mop anymore.
We'll invite the next person, Water Chicken.
Cool.
I was informed that the invite can take a few seconds, so let's see if they join. It also has been a while since they requested, but there they are. Hello.
Hi.
What's the question?
When creating new rooms for different maps, does the room need to be entirely unique from the other rooms from different maps? Like,
not entirely, but it needs to be unique. And what I mean by that is that's an excellent question, Water Chicken. You like Vault is like an amazing room, which is why it made the bank. Is it has built into it a constraint that you must push the button to get into the room, right? And we did use that for Castle, but the Vault's application, I think, is far clearer and thematically consistent. What kind of castle is that? But
It's true. It's a game show.
But it works, right? Like it's in the frame of the game show, right?
Yeah.
You know. But we of course couldn't do that with like if we just made straight up it's a castle for some reason and we're really playing it straight, then the button would be untenable, right? Anyway, the deal with like I think Pillbox also a very good room. As I mentioned, I'm a fan of Breezeway, right? It's super easy, like to the point of being expressly prohibited now. It's like if you tell me you want to do a room that is basically it's just like Storage Man or it's suspiciously similar to the kitchen, right? It's no, like there's no point in doing any more of those rooms because like at the end of the day, if you need a filler room, it will be thematically evident what that room needs to be, you know? Like I'm not saying lobby was a filler room, but it's like you're gonna make a bank, it has to have a lobby. You're constrained into doing that, right? But yeah, like in general, what you want is your rooms we call them alpha rooms, right? Where they create a structural constraint that develops the rest of the level. So in the case of say, how to put this? So like Breezeway is an alpha room. Kill House, I'm sorry, the Vault is of course an alpha room, and I think hallways are still on alpha. I'm not sure. But that means they get placed first, everything generates off of them. They necessarily create the rest of the structure that occurs, right? Those I think are the most desirable because if you get a totally new room structure out of a map, that's like the biggest change to the feeling of a map. And then second are the, like, I guess the Bravo rooms, right? Are rooms that Pillbox got relegated to that because I think it ended up being perhaps too powerful. I don't know if they're going to put it back in the alpha slot or not, but those are rooms that they've got a real big deal tactical implication. Another great example of this is like, say, if you get a toxic that kind of bisects the map and creates a bridge or something, right? Anything that creates like a good choke point or elevated high ground or just like, I guess Office is a great example in Factory, right? Like creates a distinct fighting position that confers advantage to whoever holds it, right? Those are the rooms that we want, not it's just a kitchen. And I guess unique is it's like if this room, Vault and Castle are very similar in premise, hit the button, get through the door. But there are important distinctions, like you can wall charge through the Castle door. I believe that's still true, right? I just never used that. We need to fix that. and of course the opportunity to pop flash, and then also the bomb typically isn't in the castle, right? All of these things are factors. So like if a room is just an exact copy of something else, it's probably not worth having, right? Certainly not in the case of it being in the same level palette, but maybe you could justify, hey, let's just do Teller again because that was kind of fun, we'll just put it here, right? Like, I guess you could do that, but does that answer your question in regards to sort of like the philosophy of these rooms? The importance is quite simple. It's like if you just make the easiest rooms, which are your generic bread and butter, I guess the Charlie rooms, right? Then game is just totally bad. It's just everything's homogenous. It's like the worst kill house maps are always guilty of that, which is just you just get locker, lobby or reception, right? The stage room, club, and kitchen, right? You just get those four, and you've got a perfect recipe for a mediocre map, because it's just nothing. There's like, just go in wherever has the shortest path to the bomb and doesn't look too hairy, right? I guess just do that, right? Like, it's stupid. So, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
Say that. Yeah.
Like in the best case, you want, hey, we really need to take office because it's got this bomb overlook, and we know they're going to be wall banging us through the shipping crate or something, right? Like, so anyway.
I also have another question, if that's all right.
Good.
Why is C-Store being prioritized for change and development when Factory still needs to...
Because Nemesis broke it.
Fair enough.
If the strategy for a level is save the wall charge so you can do the same strategy over and over and win every time despite the defender's best preparations, that is in need of eminent fixes. I would say the other reason is actually just a personnel thing, which is Grant is working on the factory, and I convinced him, hey, take some time to get the easy win with the kill house first to get these things generating. I need to check on how complete that is. And then he will work on the factory because that's what he wanted to do, right? And so in light of that, with Sandwich or Ben, I just said, okay, well, what do you want to fix? I think I made a pretty good case for why C-Store ought to be fixed, and I believe that was what he wanted to do as well. And so, yeah, it's always much deeper than just like the most painful thing gets done first. It's just more like you just have to consider how the blocks all fit together. It's like a big Tetris puzzle,
Okay.
All right. Cool. Thanks for the questions.
Thank you.
I'll have another one from chat. From Cat Monkey. Is your process aimed to be a competitive or a tactical shooter? Wait, I want to skip some sentences to shorten it a little bit. The word competitive is... No, wait, that's not the word. Sorry, I had it prepared earlier, now it has been too long.
Rip.
There we go. Is your process aimed to be a competitive or a tactical shooter? The marketing advertises this game as a tactical shooter focused on planning and strategy, but the actual gameplay doesn't really live up to that. From rank changes, battle passes, weapon reworks, simplification of maps, and nerfing of defender weapons economy, importance, each of these seemed aimed at a competitive audience, while changes to increase strategy by adding more options or increasing the importance of planning seem to get little focus.
I agree with all of that. It is meant to be a competitive tactical shooter, is the answer. That is to say, the goal is to make... Okay. Tactical shooters are about process, right? Which is why we have the clever ass name.
Mm-hmm.
That is to say, procedures. So it's like if you kick a door, the consequence may well be that someone shoots you right in the face and you're dead, which is why you use a door breacher to obliquely destroy that door. Or you could use, say, like a door ram or any number of solutions to solve that problem, right? But that's there's what tactical shooters are about, is mitigating risk through procedure.
Mhm.
And what is missing is the risk procedure matrix is pretty anemic because it's pretty much things like, throw the flashbang into the room. Cool. And the shotgun thing, I think, that's will matter if you got a cheeky bastard with a tub, because we still haven't fixed the kicking doors should kill you thing.
Yeah.
Which is fine, right? Because it's like that's why you need the shotgunners, so that you can always just wallbang that guy if you think he's there too. But it's just that is why our game doesn't feel like a tactical shooter. Is not enough has been done to create meaningful, immediately punishing risks, right? Because that's why most tactical shooters have near instant death TTKs. Is not only is it thematically consistent with the subject, right, but it means if you fuck up, you die immediately, right? So the procedure ideally has high weight, like if you watch people playing Ready or Not with co-op stuff, it's like if you don't pie off a corner perfectly, you get shotgun in the face, which is good. That's how the game should play, right? I think with our game, the only problem with instant death is it just, due to the nature of PC games, makes it makes things too random for you to actually rely on tactics. It's better than to just aim and shoot. And what I mean by that is just go play Rainbow Six Siege, which is why you guys are all probably here, is because there's very little in the way of meaningful tactical considerations. It's really just all about getting a headshot, ideally through a wall.
Yeah.
And that's why we have this long ass time to kill that I think is probably closest to something like Halo. It gives space for the procedural errors to be met with the appropriate punishment, instead of it just being any punishment can come from anywhere, which is, say, like, that's what any punishment can come from anywhere is the entire team is armed with vectors with 50 cal mags and you have one-shot headshots, right? Like, that's what that is. And our game is supposed to be like, if you kick a door and a guy is positioned correctly, he will be able to shoot through it, and with a longer range gun will probably not kill you completely, but really badly damage you. But with a shorter range gun will almost certainly end the fight right then and there and punish your mistake, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that, say, like, battle passes and that kind of stuff are relevant to whether or not this is a competitive shooter. That's just more a, people keep telling me progression is important for attention. I believe them. I don't want to, for God's sake. I'm the kind of guy that just rolls stock on everything. I don't give a shit, right? Like, it's not my thing. And I would rather games be pure, but it's just sort of like, if n percentage of the market responds to that feature and all of your competitors have it and you don't, then you are leaving concurrency on the table, which sucks, but whatever. That said, the customization stuff was always part of the plan, and while Battle Pass wasn't necessarily the method that we had in the very beginning, it's suitable. Who doesn't like playing a game and you get a cool new hat or whatever? It's not a big deal. I don't think that makes us a competitive shooter, though. That's ridiculous, because like mobile games have that and they're not competitive. So as hard as PUBG Mobile tries, yeah, it's just like
the Battle Pass sticks out as the odd example.
The competitive aspect is basically why that matters is my thesis is it gets people to actually perform the procedures, because if the choice and consequence is properly tuned to reward doing the procedures, then people will do them, right? If it is improperly tuned in that it's too erratic what the choice, like a great example of, okay, what do I mean by erratic choice and consequences? Like, go look at the fucking early footage, the early screenshots of Rainbow Six Siege, and you will find the classic, all the guys are stacked up behind the shield, right?
Mhm.
You don't do that in Rainbow Six Siege because the consequence is erratic. Sometimes the shield protects you, right? But most of the time you get popped in the head almost immediately because someone just reflexively shoots the shield and your head is insufficiently hidden in the game, and so you die. You know, that's erratic consequence. And I think the folly of all of the tactical shooters is all of these procedures were developed by people who are training for real life. And in real life, the procedures aren't necessarily designed for individual success, right? Why you stack up and push through a door is when man one goes down, you all just step over him and then you kill whoever fucking killed him, right? You get a retrade, which is why it sucks being point man, you know?
For sure.
But, you know, on the other hand, right, like, it's good to be next to your buddies so that one of them does take a bullet to the neck. You can just drag him out of the structure if things go really tits up, right? Like, all that kind of stuff doesn't exist in games because we as gamers don't care about our little virtual lives. And so what, you know, I'm trying to do with this game is acknowledge the constraint of this as a video game in order to actually get you to have those feel-good moments where you plan and execute an assault and things go according to plan and you really do feel like a SWAT team. Is like, that's the goal, right?
I mean, that's for sure.
My thesis is go watch the Delta of watch all of the maneuvers in Escape from Tarkov's marketing material, right? And then tell me, why is it that every streamer plays alone? They can all stack together. Why not? You know, they all know each other. There's survival value to all playing 5 up, right? Yeah, but there isn't. You know, like we all do that, like, cool play shit in real life just that you can drag the guy out when one of you gets domed. You know, like, it doesn't work how we want it to in these digital games, because I think these games allow us to, like, ruthlessly explore the reality of the situation, you know? But yeah, like, I think we all want to play that Escape from Tarkov where it's like you're all covering each other's zones and you have, like, the cool armor moments, basically, right? And you can get that, but you have to be, I think, a bit smarter about the fundamental conceit of what a video game is. So, okay. I guess that's my pitch. I hope you guys liked it.
Okay.
Shall we move to the next question then?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll invite the next person, Verily, to ask their question. Let's hope they can join. There we go.
Ooh,
Hello.
There we go. Now it's working. Hello. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Earlier you guys were talking about utility to completely shift the conversation away from whatever we were just talking about. No, but you guys were talking about utility earlier, and it actually got me curious because this game features lots of very strong utility options. So what is your thought process and the team's thought process for creating new utility items? Because obviously you have to do something interesting and unique so that there's not a cluttered sandbox, but they also have to be strong enough to actually be worth the inventory slot over taking double flash or something, you know?
Totally, yeah. Well, you know, I think one of the things that I wanted to do is nerf flashbangs, not by I don't want to make them less effective. I want to make them more precise in their requirements, because they're, like, really super general potato mode AoE.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you were a pro PUBG player like me, I was not professional, but you would know that there's value to cooking a flashbang, because you can basically bank the bang right off the fucking door, and then if they're looking at the door, they're blinded, right? You want that kind of choice in our game where it's like either you like deploy the flashbang to blind right in the doorway, in which case you're betting that they're actually like committed to the doorway and looking at it instead of like masking behind the arcade cabinet only to step out, right?
Yeah.
Or you want to deep flash it to get the concussion benefit and throw it directly on the position where you expect the enemy to be. And there's risk in doing one or the other, right? Because, you know, no one's there to view the flash, you failed, right? But if you throw it deep and it's the wrong position, or if you throw it deep and it's the wrong position, he's actually on the other side of the arcade cabinet and you exposed to get that shot with the flashbang, then you're dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think what you want is for flashbangs to be, they shouldn't, like, they're supposed to be the thing that you take not as like some meticulously managed economy element, like, oh, we have to make sure we use exactly 5 flashbangs, right? It's like you take a flashbang because you had a slot open, you know? Like, I want you to basically auto-assign flashbangs because they're not, a flashbang is not meaningful. It's just the basic tactical aid to gain entry into a structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I want is, in the realm of grenades, like, you should have tools like CS gas, right? Like things that allow you to, like, why use CS over a flashbang is if you use CS, it fills up a room, and if the enemy is in the room, their coughing reveals them, A, and B, they become, you know, like in the worst flashbang state where you're kind of like spinning and just can't see shit, right? Or they have, you know, a gas mask because they anticipated this and have elected to counter you, right? But you want to use the CS gas because it's like the foolproof way, except for that one case with the gas mask, to evacuate a room and make sure that it's easy for free entry. And maybe now that you've gained that, you can now wall charge into the next room because you've mitigated all the risk of attacking that one room, right? Or have flushed it into the doorways that overlook it. So that's a great example of a utility on the to-do list. Another one I would love to see is a tactical ladder, because if you think about it, we have those wonderful skylights in certain levels, and we just don't understand what to do with them. Like, are they a green door? Or are they not? Like, is there a green door somewhere else in the other level? Like, what's the deal? You know? And I think the solution is, they're extremely fucking powerful and a lot of fun, right? They should cost a utility to get up to, and that's the solution. And then you can use that on like the castle walls for all the fun stuff with sieging castles, and, you know, like perhaps you could use it to gain entry into certain things in factory, right? Like, so though, like, I think attacker utilities are easy as fuck because you just like look at whatever SWAT teams have and say, we should put that in our game. And you just choose the ones that have like the least technical complexity to implement. In the case of, say, like the ladder, like, think about how simple that is. It's literally just the wall charge, right? It functions identically from a game logic perspective. It just,
the wall charge but up.
Yeah, well, all it does, exactly, wall charge but up. But all it does is just turns on a piece of geometry at the like the minimum viable level to implement, right? Is you just, it toggles on a ramp, and we hope that doesn't get used to like push people through the wall or something, right?
That surely will never happen and not be an issue at all.
No one will ever bug your game.
We'll
Don't
probably
worry
have
about
to do like the wall, actually, like the invisible collision box will like move up from the floor into position, if that makes sense. So it's like you turn it on, but it's under the ground, and then it just like, it's like the reverse of the Homer Simpson retreating into the hedge gif, right? It basically just does that.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. Yeah, like that's cool shit. And I think the benefit of those utilities, right, is it creates more breadth available to the attackers so that they can do interesting plans beyond just where do we want to use the sacred wall charge, because that's lame as fuck, right? Like, I I hate that the wall charge is basically the only good utility in the game, and the rest are just like, they are of the same caliber as the flashbang, which is like, it's essential to play, and they're basically just a noob trap of like, you need the charge to go through the red door. Cool. You know, like I'm terribly unenthused about where we've left things. And it's only just, again, it's the resource constraint problem. Like, I have all these really cool things that I want to do with the team, and we're all jazzed to do them. We just never have the manpower, it seems. The defenders are way fucking harder to like, if you guys have great ideas for defender utilities, let me know. But if you look at a game like Rainbow Six Siege, they get pretty wacky pretty quickly, right? Like, you know, you could do something like, say, the Jammer, I guess, right? That kind of makes sense. I don't know why it's so local.
I'm personally a fan of the chair you put up against a green door, make it so to kick it one more time.
Yeah, I think like a barricade. I mean, I wanted to get that like in the domain of the procedure argument, right? It's like, we used to have a really bad situation with the door where there was a door spreadsheet where people would break down all of the requirements for what can and cannot be done with doors, and that was bad because it hinted that like our design wasn't properly affording what the outcomes would be for things, right? Like, it's totally counterintuitive that you have a bulletproof door and you can shotgun the lock out of the door. It's like, what? However, it follows that you could just replace that functionality with a different utility. You know, for instance, not saying we're going to do this, but like the Ashes grenade launcher is based off an object called Simon, which is like it's like a rifle grenade that the Israelis use to blow up a door at range. So you just kind of like put it on the end of your muzzle and you shoot at the door, and door goes bye-bye, right? So it's like a red door on a stick, basically. Door turret on a stick, I guess. And that would be good, because then you could still get that outcome of like, we're going to jump through the skylight and shotgun the lock, except instead of it being a shotgun, you bloop it and you get through. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But I do want the kind of like depth of doors and how to deal with them in our game one day, which is like, you can't just kick a metal reinforced door that we have in our game and it just opens, right? You should be able to kick it over and over and open it eventually, but that's not a survival strategy. I want the procedure of like, you have like a Halligan tool or something, like a glorified giant crowbar. All that kind of cool shit in our game. It's just like, how do you do it in a way that new people who are totally apparently unfamiliar with what tactical shooters are understand what these things do and why you need them, you know, because it sucks to find out once you only get to the door and you're just kicking away. And yeah, on the defending side, I'd say that like, it's hard because it really just is like, if you already have barbed wire, which is good. Nice one, Siege. And I guess the deployable cover that Siege had is also good, but it tends to be used as a blocker in their game more than, like in our game, you just kick it over. If we did that, it's like it's tough, you know. Like I have ideas. It's just they're not like. The clarity of why a tactical value or ladder is valuable is immediately apparent, where the clarity of why, say, you know, like maybe you have a spotlight that if you turn the power off, you can flick that on and it will blind attackers trying to come through a door, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool, but it's like intensely situational, where it's just, which I guess situationalness is good. It just doesn't seem that powerful because they're just going to move through the light pretty quickly, and you know, we'll see. I'd love to be proven wrong. But yeah. And then as for like the weapon economy with defenders. Someone asked like, why did we break the economy by adding in, I guess, the KR-82 full size and then the MP5. It wasn't meant to break the economy, because that's not supposed to be the economy for the defenders. Like, yeah, I get that it's like the one last piece of depth they have right now, but it seriously sucks that you have a game with a tragedy of the commons built in. Because like the worst case scenario on the attacking side is, oh no, we took everything but the AP-25, so I guess we'll just use the AP-25, which is like a great weapon, right? On the defending side, it's like, we are stuck with shotguns in this factory. And it's like, what's the point of that? That's not... Our game isn't meant to be... Like, that's not intense economy management. That's a noob trap, right? And so the solution is give defenders meaningful utilities so that they can set up defenses that rely on more than, you chose a rifle instead of a shotgun, because that's pathetic, So we can do better there. That said, it's been like, 6 months now at least. So sorry for the economy break, I guess. But, still, it's like the goal is to position your guns correctly, not to manage which guns go where. So, yeah, I hope that answered your question in a very lengthy way.
Yeah, I basically got the idea of where your thought process is.
Cool.
Before I go, could I ask you to say oblique angle twice to cause an argument in the chat?
Oblique angle twice?
Yeah, just say oblique angle and oblique angle.
Oblique angle, oblique angle.
Thank you very much.
I've done it. Commence. Fight.
Now you need to say fulcrum as well.
Fulcrum.
All right.
Do we have fulcrum in our operation name gen?
Oh, I don't think so, but we should.
Fulcrum.
An oblique, please. Anyway.
And oblique. Shit, dude. Okay, I'll add those on my document here.
Nice. Looking forward to oblique fulcrum. Okay, question from Donut, but it's a sentiment that I've seen from other people as well. So yeah. There has been a lot of unease in the community on the future and state of this game, both in terms of where development is going and the plans for the game. What can you say to alleviate some of the community's concerns about the current state of the game, and give us hope or something to look forward to in the near future? It's a very broad question, I guess, but
if you can solve the resource constraint problem, then the rate of really cool shit happening in the game goes up dramatically, and we are working on solving that. So that is the hope I'm giving.
That sounds fantastic.
I can't say more than that, but it's very exciting, and I wouldn't be talking about it here if I didn't think it had a serious shot at happening. So,
all right, that sounds good. Water Chicken wants to ask another question, so let's give them the option. Okay, I guess they decided against it. Okay, then I wanted to use that time to look for the next question from chat, but I'll find something. Oh, why not? Is player movement set in stone, or could it still change? A lot of people, myself included, that's from Oyaksu, find the player movement to be somewhat clunky and slow.
It is not set in stone. It is a series of floating point values in a file somewhere, and we just changed them, and movement has changed. So I am open to changing it again. It's just the resource constraint there again. Like, if we have more gameplay programmers, then we can do more stuff, So we're gonna do that. But yeah, like, I guess I spoke last time about this. I'll just echo what I said before, which is, in the best case scenario, the good ending, to use the meme, you want the enforcers to have a very grounded, aggressive, but methodical pace, and the defenders to have a more, like, I wouldn't say it, nimble is a good word, right? And clever and fancy approach to moving through the environment. We'll see if we can achieve that, but I'd love for basically each side to feel very different, because like, you know, other guys are like head to toe in really heavy armor. Like, I know they make it look effortless right now, but if you think about what it takes to stop a bullet nowadays, it ain't cheap on weight. So
For sure.
you know, I don't want them to be like fucking uselessly slow, but I want them to feel different to the defenders, right? I want them to feel aggressive and powerful and kind of like tank-like, but not they're not able to keep up in the same way that the defenders are. So yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's get Killity98 in here. Give the invite a few seconds. Okay, seem to be AFK. Maybe they can come back later. Let's get Coop then. I'm sure Coop's gonna ask about audio, probably. Oh, there's Killer. And Coop. Okay, Killer first.
Yeah, no, I am.
I'm sorry, it didn't pop up. I had
no problem.
OBS open, so it didn't pop up and make a noise. I have a quick question on how are you guys going to how would I say this? How are you guys going to do the not really, but skill-based matchmaking? Like when it comes to like regulars and when it comes to ranked, because from what I've seen, from when I played since alpha, most of the time it just puts people in who are like on, which in some cases is not bad, because I feel like if there are a lot of people that have played a long time on and there's people that haven't played, normally it still gives good teams. But how are you guys going to make it so if I buy this game today for my brother, which I'm thinking about, and if me and him play, he's only been on the computer for 4 days. How is it going to be so his experience isn't bad versus my experience is going to be okay?
Totally understand. Step one is if you increase the concurrency of the game, then you get better match quality. And unfortunately, hey, the fact that the game's still alive at this concurrency means there's something there. So that's good. But, this is a real tough place to be in for a session-based matchmaking. So, as you correctly detected, all the matchmaker really just does is says, do you have internet? And then it connects you to a match, right? The simultaneous queuing for ranked is meant to get better match quality, and with that is to say, if you are playing a casual game, it follows that you can wait a lot longer for a ranked game before you get fed up, and that ranked game can be more skill constrained. That said, it's really just the product of where the game is in terms of the number of people playing it makes matchmaking really, really hard. I think that the best solution to the problem failing increasing concurrency is to reevaluate how to do casual games such that you play in them more persistently, almost like a dedicated server. Because with the correct measures to that experience, you'll end up getting balanced games that feel really good, and you also have the feeling of playing in a small community where everyone knows each other and it's all kind of fun and games, and you can still match for a ranked game and get a really good high quality skill-based match. But yeah, there's just a lot of difficulty in that, because at the end of the day, you could all be the same rank, but if you don't actually talk to each other and have a good team chemistry, you're going to get owned, regardless of the fact that you might be able to outshoot the enemy team. So, does that answer your question regarding your brother? I mean, he's going to have a tough time, right? Like, this is not the best first-person shooter.
I mean, he decided to try Valorant and Counter-Strike yesterday, and it was a long day. So
I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure he would like this game more because he liked Rainbow Six Siege, and I told him this is better. Like,
he played on console beforehand, and
yep, we were
Gotcha.
both on
Okay.
PS4, and I switched over years ago, and I've been in this game since Alpha, and I told him this is going to be good, but I'm like, how that was when that question came up, because in Counter-Strike and Valorant, there's not really skill-based matchmaking. He's just getting rolled, and it's like, I know it's not fun for him because he likes learning, but if someone's played Valorant or Counter-Strike and you have never, you're going to get rolled. Like, people know everything
because of all the map knowledge and everything.
Yeah.
I would say that, like, if he's played console games for at least a couple of years, then he has Siege is a hard ass game. So if that was his daily driver, then he knows how to play video games. So it's just like, can he aim yet? Does he have his sensitivity set correctly, where it's like 8 inches to 180? Because well, if you can like get him on track with learning how to aim, right? Because that's the worst skill that console players struggle with. Is like, well, high sensitivity was good on a controller, so I want that here. And it's like, no, it's the exact opposite. You need fine-grained control or you're dead. So probably if you just solve that, then like all the skills from Siege will transfer just fine to our game, because it's the same premise, right? Like, it's just you need to learn how to aim, and he's already, I think, seen the value of being able to understand where people are in a map, right? Because they're like, it's like they're like two levels of understanding, right? There's, I am in the level and I walk forward and I don't know what happens next, right? And then there's the, I have learned the level through a lot of trial and error, and now I understand that there's gonna be a guy at this time right here, and I need to line my crosshair up for that dude, right? So he's at least at that level. But then there's level 3, which is being able to read that from a top-down map and then identify that there's going to be a guy at this position. And I think that's probably going to be the only other trouble point. But, you know, the aiming thing is probably the worst thing. And I guess the, like, you know, like, our levels are pretty fucking hard to navigate. Even I get lost, right? Like, that's bad. I should not get lost in this game that I've played for 7 years. So, you know, some of it's on you guys, but a lot of it's still on us. So, I would just say that, like, hey, at least the advantage to this is if he starts playing our game a lot, then he'll make friends within the community. And I hear our community is pretty great. It seems like a lot of important people that I've sent to play the game end up meeting community members that do a great job of onboarding them and making the experience really, really pleasant. And that has been a huge help to us. So thank you for the people involved in that. So if your brother gets the same thing, then could go super well, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, I've never, as long as I've played this game, I've never had a toxic interaction. But in Counter-Strike yesterday, we definitely had a teammate trying to kill us. And we're in rank. And I'm like, there has to be something better. And then that's what I thought of this game. And I'm like, then when I seen you guys were live, I was like, I got to ask this question. Like, I got to know.
For sure. Well, appreciate the question. And it's something we're definitely going to work on in the future. So,
all right. Thank you.
Cool.
All right. Then I guess Coop next. I've heard you have many questions.
Yes, I have quite a few. First off, I wanted to ask, were snipers supposed to be so strong and, well, meta, pretty much, like they are currently? At least in the competitive community, they're incredibly strong, and they're kind of broken on both sides. So,
strong is good. What you guys are detecting is the weakness of all the other options. So I would say that that's like, it's good that the weapon is like, think about how much we nerfed that goddamn mop, right? Like the op in Counter-Strike gets what, 5 shots with a mag, and you can like just reload the mag. And with our stupid sniper, you have to, it's a single shot bolt action, for God's sake. Like, you don't see those nowadays. It takes an eternity to unholster and reholster, and you can't, as far as I can tell, you can't really brace fire it effectively. It's pretty much a piece of junk, except for in the one thing of getting a headshot at range, right? So I would say we've done pretty much everything we can, except delete the core thing that makes it a sniper, which I don't think is wise to do. Oh, also we, like the scope's field of view isn't really meant to be a benefit to the weapon. It's meant to just like further funnel it into, you lose situational awareness when you aim, like all this shit happens, right? And it's still powerful. And the attacker sniper was just meant to be like, okay, well, let's just do what a real sniper rifle would look like in this day and age, and give it to the enforcers since they've got better gear. And I think it succeeds pretty well. It's probably a bit too clutchy, but that's not necessarily a bad thing given that there's only one. It's just the reason why only the sniper matters is, like the auto shotgun just sucks ass, and most of the other stuff, like, it's just, the inventory of options available to each side is not really so diverse, like there's nothing as big of a deal as the, like, that's why the cart was important, right? Was, the cart isn't as lethal as the op. It can be kited, right, where you just don't go where it can shoot you. But that means now that you have to go through an approach that is anticipated by the enemy, and all sorts of bad shit happens then, right? So it would be good to have that back in the game, because then you have something approaching the value of the op. I think the only problem is sort of like its versatility. It can reposition quite easily and just be there at every door. So that's sort of like, take it or leave it, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question that I wanted to ask was, is the visual noise that is currently in the game, and that I know many people that I've talked to about it dislike quite a bit, is it going to be addressed? Is it going to be changed? Is it something that's not going to be changed? Is it something that...
No, visual noise is terrible. We should probably have like threads, like maybe a channel specifically dedicated to visibility. Is there anything in particular you're talking about, though?
Mainly, I'd say the hit markers being very, very big still,
okay.
And also in general, just the muzzle flash. It's been much. Of course it's much better than compared to before, but it still is quite distracting, and also the guns moving a lot when, like visually, when because of the recoil. The last one is more.
My guess is there's a fight between two camps of people. One who want recoil to feel really gun-like, and the other to feel more video game-like, kind of like with Valorant and such, where it's just minimal,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, another thing about the visual noise, also that there are some maps, like Dome, and some parts of maps like Arcade.
I'm aware of that stuff. That's what I was talking about. Is where we need the threads. As to the guns and stuff, at some point, muzzle flash is part of firing a gun, and it's like, I guess it's just kind of like the deal with the breezeway in a way, in that it's people don't like a thing about terrain or a weapon, right? And it's on us as designers to look perhaps a bit deeper than at why they don't like it, because it could be that like there's some really obtuse detail, like if you make the muzzle flash disappear for a frame or something, right? It gives people better visibility when ADSing. We'll look into solutions. It's just, again, like you do want the game to feature these firearms that actually feel like guns, like that's super important. So I think that's it, because I got a hard out at 1. So
All right, then let's wrap it up. Thanks everyone for showing up, and thanks Baard for answering all the good questions we got. We'll do this again in the near future to get to more questions. I'm sorry we could not get at to half the questions that were asked, but there will be other opportunities in the future. For now, I hope you will all have a great start into the new year, and we're all excited to see what's coming this year for Due Process. So stay awesome. Stay the community, the great community, the welcoming community to new people that you are and have been in the past. So thanks again also from me for that, and we'll all see you next time. I'm TH Pine, and this was Alexander Baard, our creative director, and we're out. Bye bye.
thanks for putting this together, Pine. Take care, everyone.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye.
District 1, I'm receiving at 39. District 1, I'm receiving at 39.